Hi there. I wanted to talk about the books I read in the month of January. I ended up reading 10 books. And if you're asking how I managed to read 10 books, which I've had a few people ask me, you should see my laundry pile and you should see how messy my house is. I was actually requested by my darling husband to put the reading aside this month and focus on the house and, not spend all my days reading, which is hard because all I want to do is read. But my primary focus should be my household. So I'm trying. The first book I read in January was called Mary by Nat Cassidy. This is my third book by this author. I did not enjoy this book. I finished it because I don't like leaving things unfinished. It has been very rare that I haven't finished a book. I think I've only ever not finished one book. Anyways, I did not enjoy this book. Nat Cassidy is a wonderful author. I loved his book When the Wolf Comes Home, and then I forget the name of the other one. But I have read two other books by him that I really enjoyed. They were scary, suspenseful. This one didn't feel as scary at all. The protagonist was really boring. She was a 50-year-old woman who had done nothing with her life. She had moved to New York when she was younger. I think it said like 30 years that she had lived in New York and worked in the same bookstore the entire time. And didn't have any friends, didn't have a social life. All she did was work and go home. And weird things start happening to her that doctors attribute to be middle age and menopause. She ends up moving back home. I can't remember if it was New Mexico or Arizona. It was a desert. And things start happening in her hometown. And she's trying to figure out why the town and the people are so weird. So there's a lot of weird stuff that happens. But in the end, the answer and the solution for everything was it wasn't anything grand. It was just very it didn't stand out for me. So I wouldn't really recommend this book. I would recommend Nat Cassidy. And I definitely recommend When the Wolf Comes Home if you want to be scared and read a book that really goes out there. It was really creepy and really enjoyable. The next book I read is Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. I don't have it with me anymore. But that one I read, it was recommended by a friend of mine. She lent it to me. And I really enjoyed it. I thought I wasn't going to enjoy it. I kept putting it off. But it was just very interesting to read. It was written in the 1950s. Ray Bradbury actually wrote it in 9 days. He rented a typewriter and wrote the whole book in 9 days. It's under 300 pages. And it's interesting how, futuristic he made it, but a lot of it is applied to how we live now. I mean, in the 1950s, he couldn't have thought of smartphones and earbuds and Zoom calls or any of that. And one of the things that he wrote about was people walked around, he described it as seashells in their ears, and they're just like AirPods. Everybody had AirPods on and kind of shut themselves out from the world. It's a dystopian book, but he didn't write a dystopian world that is collapsed and lacking things, lacking resources. His dystopian world is very futuristic, very technological. Cars drove super fast. Everybody had AirPods on. Everybody was connected to some kind of technology. TVs took up the whole wall. In fact, our protagonist had TVs on 3 walls, and his wife was obsessed with the television. So much so that people became completely distant from each other. Even married couples nobody talked. And the biggest thing about the book is books were forbidden, outlawed at some point. And the firefighters, our protagonist is a firefighter. The firefighter's job was no longer to put out fires. Their jobs was to burn down books. So they would get a call, somebody's neighbor would call, or friend or whoever, and say, this person has books in their house. They would show up and burn down all the books. And our protagonist, named Guy, decides to start looking at these books he's burning, because he starts thinking about things more. And his captain actually gets upset because he shouldn't be thinking and he shouldn't be focusing so much on books. So it's just very interesting and a little bit of an eye-opener for me, because it does kind of resemble our world today. People are so technologically focused. They're kind of distanced from each other. We're all obsessed with our social media, and interpersonal relationships have suffered because of it. So definitely eye-opening. My second book was Two Truths and a Murder by Colleen Cambridge. It is my first time reading this author. This book was gifted to me for Christmas, and I really, really enjoyed it. I didn't know this at the time I started reading. This book is the 5th of a series. I did not read the first 4, but I don't feel like I'm missing anything from not having read the first 4. It's definitely mentioned a few times in this book, things that happen in the first 4 books, but she writes it in a way that you're not missing anything by not having read them. I definitely want to read them at some point because I really enjoyed the author and the story. Our protagonist is named Phyllida Bright. This takes place in London, and Phyllida is like a house governess for Agatha Christie. And she and Agatha she's worked for Agatha Christie for a long time, so they become friends. And Agatha supports Phyllida's kind of second job, I guess. She actually becomes a detective, and she investigates murders. And a murder happens in their tiny town, and all the people are like, oh, you need to investigate. Please investigate. You have to find her killer. And Agatha actually supports her, lends her car, and allows her to leave the house on her duties to go find the murderer. So it was really neat. Really great story. Really fun to read. And at some point, I definitely will read the first 4. But my TBR pile is super long right now, so it's kind of holding out on it. And then the other book I read, actually it was 2 graphic novels. They are, I have it written down so I don't forget the titles. They are Bad Dreams in the Night and Let Me In Your Window, written by Adam Ellis. And one of them I read on my Kindle, the other one my husband actually owns. So it is a book filled with short stories, and they're all graphic novels, and they're all scary. One thing about me is I do like scary books. Monsters and such is a big part of our household. My husband is actually an author. He makes scary graphic novels as well. So these were really enjoyable. I liked that they were all short, and so they were all quick and to the point. And I enjoyed every short story that was in there. A few favorites, but if you like graphic novels and you like scary stories, I definitely recommend these too. The next book I read is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I originally bought this book because, number 1, I wanted to start reading some classics, and number 2, it's so pretty. Look at how pretty. This is from the Cranford collection. I actually have 4 books from this collection. I think they are all beautiful, and I love that they are hardback. They all have unique designs to them. I have them displayed on my dresser because they're so pretty. And so it had been sitting on my dresser for a while. And then when I saw the trailer for the movie, I was like, this is the perfect opportunity to read the book. Now, I loved the book. It is hard to read because it's Old English. And there's a character in here that is pretty much impossible to follow along with. He, I guess, is from another region, so his English is very broken. I would guess that it's kind of like, like a redneck or whatever, but in London. And I skipped through every time he talked. And thankfully, He doesn't talk a lot. He's one of the servants, so he's not in the book that much. But I actually saw several people that posted this, and a lot of people I've seen on my Instagram page have either just recently read or are currently reading this book, and they're all struggling with the Old English. So it was a slow read for me because you have to really focus, but I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the story. If you have seen the trailers for the movie, I have watched the movie. Obviously, it's not out yet. I will be watching it soon. But based on the trailers alone, the movie does not match the book. There is no romance in this book, not the way the trailer portrays it. The book is very dark. It is all about, honestly, to me, it's about revenge. The main character just goes out seeking revenge on everyone that he felt has wronged him. And a lot of bad things happen to everyone around him. And it's just kind of depressing. So, if you are into the classics, I definitely recommend it. It's hard to say that I enjoyed something that's depressing, but I really did enjoy the story. It is unique, especially for that time that it was written. But it's definitely one of those books that takes time to read. I do recommend it though. The next book I read was The Housemaid's Wedding and The Widow's Husband's Secret Lie, both by Frida McFadden, and they are both short books. I read them immediately after I finished Wuthering Heights. I actually read them both on the same day, and The Housemaid's Wedding was really cute. It was it was like less than 80 pages. It was very cute, very short, and you just get to see, if you like the Housemaid series, you just get to see Millie and Enzo get married, and it was quick and to the point. But it was nice to see those characters get married, especially having read the series. And then the other book, The Widow's Husband's Secret Lie, I read it out of sheer curiosity. It is not normally what I would read. I do love Frida McFadden. I read most of her books. This one is a satire, and it was so funny. I was laughing the whole time. There's definitely the Frida aspect. There's a death, and there's reasons behind it. There's twists, but it's all made to poke fun at murder mysteries, and it was just so funny to me. If you love Frida McFadden and you love thrillers and you want to laugh a little bit, then definitely read The Widow's Husband's Secret Life. Okay. So my 9th book that I read was The Frozen River by Ariel Lawhon. And this was recommended to me by a friend. I bought it probably around October, November, and I started reading it. I was in the reading slump, and I got to about 60 pages, and I kind of stopped. There's a slow beginning and build to the book, and I just wasn't feeling it, so I put it away, and I wasn't sure I was going to get back to it. And then I kept seeing people talking about it on social media, and how good the book was, and how much they loved it, and my friend really loved it, so I thought, well, let's give it another go. And I'm so glad I did. One of the things I loved about this book was the historical aspects to it. This takes place in 1790s, and you get to see how families lived their lives and what they did on a day-to-day. Our protagonist is a midwife. You got to see a few births and how they did things, and you get to learn from her how she handled things, how she ran her household. So it's really neat and fun, especially if you love history, which I do. And then, of course, there's a crime and murder aspect to the book, and our midwife is one of the only medical professionals in their small town. So she gets called to exhume the body first, and then there's a new doctor that comes in. He's new to the town, and he kind of disagrees with her. And the main crime in this book is a young lady that's her patient. She's a young mom. She gets raped, and the body they find was one of the rapists. And so it's just going through all that and trying to tie everything together to figure out to prove that she was raped, because back then it was just his word against hers and there was no evidence, there was no proof, and B, figuring out who killed one of her rapists. So it was really good. There's a really cool scene in the end with our protagonist, Martha, and one of the bad guys. I'm not going to say anything because you should read the book, but at the end I was cheering for her because she does something pretty amazing. Pretty cool. So definitely recommend the book. And then my last book of the month was actually recommended to me by my daughter. She read The Naturals. This is actually her book. And she thought I should read it. And I really enjoyed it. There are a lot of adults on my Instagram feed that have been reading this book. It is the first of a series. I haven't read the last. There's 3 more. I still have to buy them. But The Naturals follows Cassie, who is, I believe, 17, and she's lost her mother. Her dad lives out of town, so she lives with her grandmother, and she has a gift. She has a gift of profiling. It just comes natural to her, and so she gets invited to join an FBI program that trains other teenagers with different abilities, different gifts, and they're trained to help the FBI solve cold cases. And so she joins this team. They live in a secret house close to the FBI headquarters, but not quite in the FBI headquarters. And they're trained by 2 FBI agents. And we have Cassie's a profiler. There's another profiler in there. There's person that can read emotions. There's a person that's really good with statistics and numbers, and there's one that can tell whether or not you're lying. She can tell whether anybody's lying. And so these kids are trained and work together to solve these cold cases. It just so happens that the FBI agents training them are also in the middle of a case with a serial killer, and Cassie kind of becomes invested in this case. They're not allowed to investigate current cases, but she becomes invested because she believes it's related to her mother's murder that had happened 5 years prior. So this book ends with them figuring out who the serial killer is, but her mother's murder never gets solved. So I have to read the other books because I'm curious to know what happened to her mom. But it was really good. I definitely would recommend it. It is a young adult book, and I did enjoy it, especially because I'm trying to write a young adult book. So it's great research, and yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm very excited for the rest of the series, but I'm trying to get through a few of the books I have at home before I start buying more books. Anyways, that's it. Those are the 10 books I read this month. I don't think I'll be reading 10 books this month. I'm still working. It's February 3rd. I'm still working on my first book. I'm not even close to being halfway with my book. Every time I sit down to read, something happens, someone needs me, or whatever, and I can't get more than a few pages into it. I am a mom of 3, and I homeschool, and the house and the kids are my priority. Reading has to be second, and I did not make that last month. Last month, reading definitely became my priority, which I enjoyed, but my laundry suffered because of it, and my dinners kind of suffered because of it. So trying to get other things done before I can get to read, which is kind of messing with my flow. I want to read. Anyways, yeah, so I am reading A Box of Darkness. It's the new book by Simone St. James, and I'm really excited. She's my favorite author of all times. All it takes is reading the first page to hook me into any one of her books. So I'm already hooked in. I've read, I don't know, 4 or 5 chapters, and I'm really bummed that I haven't read any more, and I haven't had time to read more, but I'll get there. It's not a competition. We don't need to worry about how many books we're reading as long as we're reading. I keep telling myself that. So I hope everyone is enjoying the book they're reading, and let me know in the comments what you are reading right now and whether or not I should read it. Thank you very much.